that was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
Made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue together.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thanks for being with us over these 5 years that we've been doing Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Whether you're watching us in television in Louisiana or Mississippi in our 3 million homes that we're in, including New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette, our bigger cities here in the state. We want to thank you, whether you're on YouTube, whether we're on Facebook Live now, and some people are probably watching us, and you'll see us on TV also. Watch us on our social media, and we'll ask you to follow us. Not just befriend us, because after 5,000 on Facebook, we know we can't friend anymore. But we need to get more followers and more YouTube subscribers. So thank you very much. Today, as I try to bring you all interesting topics, and since I do this on my own, it's my give back. I can kind of make up what I want to make. Not kind of, I can. I can make up what I want to. And I tried to hit the topics. And I started this because back in 2015, there were serious problems going on, as there are today. Black, White, Blue Lives Matter is the series that I started here in Baton Rouge with our chief of police, with gangsters, with reverends, with ministers and pastors, and with people whose sons or daughters had been killed due to black-on-black gang or just black-on-black violence. I will say this. I am a black person, so black on black, we kill more than we do on the police department. 7,000 black on black. And since I've been doing this for 5 years, it's always been about 7,000. Police killings, I asked a cousin of mine one day, how many blacks do you think police kill a year based on what they say on media, right? That's all we know. She said, what, about 10, 15,000? I say, why don't you try about 250 in an average year? I think last year was 235. And I said, they do kill more whites, but gather this, we're 13% of the population, as you know, and whites are 50% of the population. But unarmed, they kill double whites than they do blacks. So we really have to put all the information, me being a math major, undergraduate, I try to do the statistics on it, and then try to put a heart into, and a brain into what I come up with and say to you all. But let's be fair with everybody. There are a lot of bad apples, and I'm starting this Black, White, Blue Lives series over again in 2020 because of George Floyd and of what's going on in this country. It was horrific what was done to Mr. Floyd. It was unfair, and Derek Chauvin is a complete jerk for what he did. And he deserves the most serious punishment that our legal system will allow them to give him. But it does not mean that I go down and burn out cities. It doesn't mean I saw 2 black people in Minnesota, a young black couple, had spent their life savings to start a cafe. And blacks went in and rioted it. And we want peaceful protests. That's what Martin Luther King and Gandhi preached to the world. That's what we want in this country. But we don't need people burning down people's hard-earned businesses. These 2 young black people, no more than 35, lost everything in the riots in Minnesota. The CHOP area, downtown Seattle, that was keeping vendors from even being able to get to their business. And this was supposed to be peaceful protest and taking over a downtown, part of a downtown in a city where there were rapes, I understand, and riots, and 2 kids got killed. One 14, one 16, I understand, but they both happened to be black. Horace Anderson was a young man who was mentally challenged. So we all have to be very careful. I tell people I watch CNN, I watch MSNBC, and I watch Fox. You just don't want to say MSNBC is too liberal, Fox is too conservative. Take them all and take a summary of what they say and create your own knowledge of what's really going on. That's why I named this show Dianne Andrews in Black and White, because between black and white, there are always shades of gray. And we can find something good about something and we can find something bad. It depends on how we look at it and what we look for. But be willing to look. I don't mind anybody disagreeing with me, but know your facts before you start disagreeing with anyone. So I started this again, and one person who's going to be on the show today is a guy who is a reverend, and he works in mental retardation, and he works in the mental health industry. And he's been on here before, and you probably remember this. His son was Victor White III, in New Iberia in 2014. And we're going to talk about what happened then, what's happening now, if anything is happening with that case. But you may have seen Sugartown on Discovery Channel, a national documentary that was done on this case. I wanted to shine a light for Jonathan Victor. And when I thought about it, I said, wow, Victor White and Jonathan Victor, I believe they're up there victorious up in heaven watching us as we put on this show. But he was a young white man who was killed, 35 years old, killed in Baldwin, Alabama on I-10 on his way from New Orleans to Florida on business. We're going to talk a lot about that and what happened because, again, last year police killed 20 unarmed white men and they killed 10 unarmed black men. So let's talk about what the real facts are involving black, white, blue, and brown lives. I call it the rainbow series, really, because all lives do matter. And if we really remember what Martin Luther King said, judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White and hear these tearful stories about these two young men. Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White with these two guests I have with me. Reverend Victor White, you may remember from the end of 2016, whose son was killed in September of 2014, or in August of 2014, really. March of 2014, I think the article I read was September of 2014 about what was going on in New Iberia. But the documentary was last year, right? Did I see that last year or a year before?
2018.
Boy, time flies
Yes.
when you're having fun being locked down, doesn't it? You just don't know what day it is or what year it is anymore, hardly. And next to him, I have Donna Chisesi, whose son was also killed, as I had mentioned, on the way on I-10. Let's start off with you, Donna, and then we're going to move on. Your son, from what I read and from our discussion, seemed like the perfect storm for everything that could go wrong in any situation. Why don't you tell our audience what you have come up with as trying to piece this story together from 2017? I think you heard about it on Mother's Day, or he was killed on Mother's Day in May 12th, or what day was he killed?
He was shot on May 12th. That's when I got the call.
Mm-hmm. Mother's Day, correct?
No, this was a Friday before
Okay.
Mother's Day. He died the day before Mother's Day,
Okay.
2017. And basically they called me after, but they misled me into thinking he was pulled over on the side of the road. So
When you say they called me after, about how long after the accident had happened? Was he already in the hospital and everything when they called you? Or was he already, they didn't call me on the Saturday that he passed. They called you Friday, right?
They called me Friday. He was still on the ground. He had already
Been shot.
flatlined one time.
EMS was there.
Yes, but they didn't tell me that. They said that he was pulled over, is what they said. And
You didn't know he was shot.
They did not tell me he was shot.
Is that a policy? I guess I would have to ask. I do a lot of police officers. And I'm going to ask, I do some shows next week on that. I'm going to ask, is that a policy that you don't tell people when someone is killed, or you're afraid to tell them on the phone what they may do? I don't know.
No,
do
they
you
were
know?
misleading me, and they were trying to find out information on Jonathan to see what type of individual he was, but they left that information out that he was shot in an accident. They just like he was pulled over for a ticket, maybe speeding. But then they called back later and said that somebody stole his car and that they killed the guy that stole his car and they were looking for him.
Is that what they really thought? Do you think that's what they really thought?
In the beginning, they said they had him and they wanted to know if they were accounting for our bodies to make sure he didn't kill any of us. Mm-hmm. That was the first phone call.
So they thought he was a murderer, is what they told you. They were saying if he killed any of you all, so they thought it was a murder.
He wouldn't get out of the car, but they still led me to believe he was pulled on the side of the road, and I'm assuming he was getting a ticket. They never said he was in an accident.
But what made them think he may have killed you all?
They said because he had blood on him. inside the vehicle. He was bleeding.
That means I killed somebody because I had a wreck, and then he was in the median.
But they didn't tell me he
Yeah,
had
but
a
I'm
wreck.
thinking like them now. How do they get that from A to, how do they go from A to Z without going B, C, D first, right?
Yeah.
So, but was he on the median? He had the,
He was
it was a
in the
one-car
median
collision,
in a
correct?
marshland ditch.
He was
yes.
one car collision, so he didn't hit anyone, no one hit him. You don't have any idea how he ended up losing control of the car, maybe, or what happened?
We didn't get the actual report for the accident, but the DA had said that he hydroplaned in.
Was it raining?
Yes.
Oh, it was bad weather.
Yes, it was very bad weather. It was actually, I think, flooding in New Orleans. So the whole Gulf Coast was kind of bad conditions when he left. But then they had called back again, said somebody stole his car, they killed that gentleman. Then they called back again and they said,
killed that gentleman who stole his car?
That's what they said.
Where's the dead body, y'all? Is there somebody dead somewhere that they hid? I mean, what's going on?
Jonathan did die at the scene.
Yeah, but they said, so they thought that was him, but they didn't think it was Jonathan. They didn't think it was your son.
They messed up IDs, I think.
Between his and who? Do you know?
Then 15 minutes later, they called back.
Were there two bodies there? That's what I'm wondering.
No.
Are we sure? It's not a hidden body somewhere around there? Oh, my God.
15 minutes later, they called back and they said that it was Jonathan and he was non-life-threatening injuries, that they did shoot him, and that he was shot in the foot. So we had asked what hospital, and they weren't. They said they were trying to locate which hospital.
When you say they, Donna, who are you talking to? Are you talking to dispatch at the time, or are you talking about to people at the scene? Who calls you with this? People in the office or at the scene?
The officers at the scene or dispatchers at the scene, or 911, however it works, calls the local parish.
In New Orleans? Where you were, Metairie.
Jefferson Parish, yes. I was in Kenner. But they were also at
because he was living with you in Kenner. You did tell me that, yeah.
But they were also at my ex-husband's house. So
because of the last name, which is not yours,
car was,
You're remarried.
and driver's license was registered at my ex-husband's house.
Right.
And so they had officers there, which also did not disclose the information to my ex-husband. By the time
what did they tell him? Do you know? Did you all talk about it?
I don't know if they told him the part about accounting for the bodies, but I think they did do the same thing with saying somebody stole his car and then called back 15 minutes later and said, they didn't say oops, but that's what it felt like.
So do you think there was a translation problem maybe between the people at the scene who they call in their office to call you, and then the people who call New Orleans who then called you? You know how remember the little girl when the little classroom thing? By the time it gets to the back, you started and it's nothing like. And that also happened. I think you mentioned to me with the fireman who was the first on the scene.
Correct.
He called it in to dispatch and told them he may have a gun.
He said he may have a weapon, and he was ETOH,
right,
which means he was intoxicated.
Which I don't know how you know that when you can't open the car door.
They did not. They said Jonathan, when he was passed out after the accident, is what I found out, and when he came to, apparently he did not want help, is what they said, and they said
he was probably dazed and kind of out of it.
They said he wouldn't talk to him, but then they said he was erratic. So
now tell the audience so they know what kind of person your son was. He worked in the pharmaceutical industry, I think you said. What did he do?
He was an eyewear rep.
Eyewear,
and he sold basically optical glasses and sunglasses throughout the United States. But he was transferring his territory to Louisiana and through Florida.
So he was a professional guy.
He did this for 9 years.
35 years old, I think you told me, right?
He did this for 9 years, and he went to UNO for 4 years.
What was his major?
He first wanted to go to law school, and then he switched it to finance, and then he got into the eyewear industry, and because he loved to travel, it gave him the opportunity to travel. He was even able to go to Italy and Japan.
Where they actually make the glasses? Some of the, I think you told me it was high-end, right? High-end?
When he first started out, he was selling for another company, and he was selling a mixed.
Yeah.
type of eyewear. And it was, I guess, middle range.
Yeah.
And then he eventually.
So we're talking a professional young man who, you know, it wasn't like someone who had drug problems.
no criminal
record, no record, anything. I'm sure they checked that kind of first. They should be able to go, I don't know if Alabama, they did check that first, right?
They did, but they didn't tell me that they did that. But they did. And they said the sheriff had said he was going to be honest and forthcoming and a very open and transparent investigation, which we did not get. We had to fight for a long time to get the tidbits and bits and pieces that we have.
Did you have to go to Baldwin that often? Did you go over there? Alabama?
Me and my sister did, and my oldest son, Justin.
Because you do have a job at your husband's family's meat packing.
Yes, I work for my in-laws and my husband over at Chisesi Brothers. It's a family-owned business, and I've been working
in New Orleans,
there.
Maria Kenner in New Orleans.
Yes, and they sell the Gulf Coast area all the way to Florida. So, and it's I do the accounting there. Yeah. And all of us are pretty much like that in the family.
Yeah.
Jonathan,
what do you think happened from what you've been able these last 3 years to piece together, to put together, to find out, like pulling teeth, it sounds like, to get information to come together with some kind of conclusion? What do you really think happened, Donna?
I think that when the volunteer fireman, Michael Tabas, made that accusation about Jonathan without being sure about it, misled 911, and when 911 made the call to Baldwin County, they said that they had somebody that was ETOH with a weapon, because it changed. And it went with a weapon.
It wasn't, it may have a weapon by that time. It was just like the classroom scenario. It changed already from one person to another.
Before they even got to
Jonathan. Before they got there.
I mean, they had people at the scene.
Right.
And nobody appeared to be.
But the police, in their minds, I'm coming to someone with a weapon who has had maybe an accident or maybe shot himself even, is what they think.
And intoxicated.
Yeah, and intoxicated. So they come differently based on what they're given, right? Like I would, right? Or you would. So, and then, so what do you think happened after that? It just went downhill from that.
Well, then they decided to flank his vehicle. They send their top shooter, or he's on SWAT team.
Now he's still in in this Mossland ditch area.
Yes.
Okay. So he had to get out in mud to get there, to get out of the car?
He didn't get out right away because they flanked the vehicle with the ARs first. So my son,
the AR-15, I think
Matthew Hunniday shot him with an AR-556.
Okay.
So the other ones had AR-15 style rifles.
Yeah.
What type they actually had, I don't know, but there were numerous, at least 5 that I saw with those weapons. But I was told
how many people do you surmise were at the scene? 20 people, maybe?
They said 15 deputies, and whatever level they are.
Pedestrians were there, I think.
I don't think there was anybody in charge at the scene. I think
no, but like people who weren't people stopping, some people, maybe pedestrians in a car.
When Hunniday arrived,
that's the shooter, Hunniday.
Yes. So they allowed the traffic to
He's their guy. This is the guy sent in. Okay.
Yeah, he drove 35 minutes to get there.
They really thought this was serious.
Yeah. And they let the traffic flow until he arrived. When he arrived, they stopped the traffic. And that's when he gets out of his vehicle.
This is a sheriff's department, not police. This was sheriff, right?
Yes.
Okay, not state trooper, it was sheriff. Okay.
Yes. When he gets out of the vehicle, that's when they all do their flanking positions and numerous.
Do you know if your son then, well, you don't know unless you asked the question and somebody told you the truth, was he seeing them doing this, or was he out sometimes in the days, like coming back and forth?
I have no idea.
Yeah. How did they finally get him out?
He just ended up getting out. I'm assuming because all of them were screaming at him. There was more than one deputy yelling commands. And so when he got out, he got out.
Was the actual sheriff there?
No.
He wasn't there.
I think Matthew Hunniday was supposedly the highest in command there, and he was just a deputy at the time.
And they put him on a leave of absence.
A corporal. He was a corporal.
Okay. They put him on a leave of absence after to
10 days,
investigate,
I heard.
right? How many? 10? So he's been back for
Correct.
about 3 years almost, yeah. Probably, yeah. So we were getting to, at the end, you think it was just a lot of miscommunication, a lot of mistakes, and people being too eager?
First thing is the fireman made a bad call on what he said because Jonathan's toxology said he was clean.
But I don't know how you see that. That's just like the guy in Atlanta. People were saying, you know, the killing near the Wendy's, the police officer and the guy sitting there in the drive-thru who couldn't move for a while. And they had to get somebody to get him out of there. But they were saying at first he didn't give him a sobriety test. But if you look at that, I saw the YouTube footage, he gave him a test and he was drunk. So, but how do you do that without seeing and giving somebody, at least see him walking, you know, or slurred speech? I mean, he couldn't talk to him. That's really weird.
They said he didn't talk to him, but he was erratic.
But
so
how do you know you're erratic?
I think.
Did he ever let the window down? The window was down or up, do you know?
All of those details, I
don't know. Because it would make a difference what he could hear with that window down in a SUV, BMW SUV versus up or down.
I would have just liked to have seen all the body and dash cams.
Yes.
And maybe that would tell me a little more.
And tell me how you say they pieced together the footage. How did they do that?
For grand jury?
Yeah.
They, Captain Beatty was the lead investigator, and he said the best video they could provide of Jonathan was from a witness that was 45 feet away. Yes. Jonathan was actually shot bumper to bumper from the shooter. And they said his body cam didn't show the actual shooting. And they're just claiming that so they took parts of Hunniday's body cam and combined it with the witness so that it looks like my son didn't comply, but they also failed to say that he was standing in a ditch that was full of mud and water up to his shins. And so Captain Beatty said that he walked towards, so after he pulled himself out of the ditch, he walked to Hunniday at the fire truck, and that's when Hunniday shot him foot, thigh, across the abdomen, in his thumb.
And which shot killed him? Do you know?
He lived 8 hours, and he flatlined 5 times within those 8 hours at different periods.
So there was no chest shot to him?
No chest shot.
Did he bleed? Did he lose too much blood out there? Or,
he did.
And is that what happened? Because what you just said is things that are peripheral to the body, not the organs.
The doctors said that he did bleed out. But after 40 minutes after he was shot, Chad Jones with EMS gave him ketamine, and he went into a heart attack. And ketamine, that is one of the side effects.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
another side effect from ketamine.
Was he belligerent, they were saying? They were trying to calm him down, I guess, with an anesthetic.
Well, they said he just tried to lift his head. So I don't think, with those type of injuries, I don't think he was very belligerent.
Right.
I think he was basically like...
Is that their normal, well, you don't know, is that a normal, do you have an attorney
I do.
That's helping you with this now?
I do, yes.
Tell me what justice for Jonathan means to you. What are you trying to do right now for him? Or for you? What's justice for you? For your son?
It's for my son.
Yeah.
And I guess for the family.
Yeah, for you,
because they smeared him.
Yeah.
They victim blamed him. If I post something or if I do a video, I have to fight more people and tell them, because people believe, because the DA said he had ketamine in his system, but failed to say how it got into his
That they
system.
administered the ketamine, the EMS
We're billed, the estate has been billed $100 for that, and he was given 80 milligrams.
And they charge you for it?
They charged us for it. So, I mean, and I have to fight people to try to say my son didn't take that. He didn't do that. He wasn't out there with that.
It makes him look like he was on drugs himself and
he was
not,
on drugs,
and he wasn't.
They didn't describe the area. They make it sound like it was, he could just get out and lay down. And
now,
so
an article I read, which is a little some different than what you're saying, they said he had the Fannie-pack on his belt. And when they asked him to get out, that it was a black Fannie-pack. they called it.
Right.
And when they asked him to lift his arms, he lifted that. He had a windbreaker over the fanny pack, is what it said in this article.
That's what they say.
Okay, did he have a windbreaker in the car? Do you know if he took one with him?
He did have a windbreaker, and it was wrapped around his bleeding arm.
Yeah.
And the RFID waist bag, which is a travel bag, was
black also, but it was black also.
Yeah. Well, his jacket was blue.
Okay, they said black there, so navy blue maybe, close, and they were thinking that he was lifting a gun since the fireman, and by the time it got from dispatch to the police going out there, to the deputies, he had a gun.
Right. But Captain Beatty, when the media asked Captain Beatty why...
Captain Beatty is the captain over there at Baldwin?
No, he's part of the investigating team.
Okay. In Alabama, though?
Correct.
Okay.
Why the other deputies didn't shoot, and his answer was that Corporal Hunnaday had a decision to make, and he chose to take it.
To take the shot.
Because they say that Jonathan didn't do anything to help himself inside of the vehicle.
Well, if he just had an accident and he's dazed or sick or hurt.
And I'm just quoting what
he
they
had
said
no
on
physical, no sicknesses, nothing, hypertension, nothing like that. Diabetes, sometimes when you're stressed, it'll go up, or nothing like that could cause his consciousness to be unaware, except this accident that caused it.
That's correct.
So do you think you're on your way to getting justice for Jonathan now? On the way. That's why I wanted to shine a light on it.
I haven't given up yet, so and I'll keep doing this until I'm not here anymore. Right,
until you get something that makes your family better and makes him feel better, that you know what really happened to him. And is there a way to find out who was there at the scene? Don't they have to put that in a police report? Do you know, Reverend White?
Well, like she said, get the reports, so who all was there? Who had anything to do with it? But what I found out, they leave out some of those intimate details. Those names. And some of those names.
Can you even find out who the volunteer fire people were? Maybe you could talk to him.
Michael Tabas.
Have you talked to him?
No, not right now. We filed our lawsuits.
I'd start from there. Yeah. He's the one who started it. And I know he has to feel badly that he thought it was a gun. Or maybe they misinterpreted what he said. You don't know. If he really said, might be a gun, and she misinterpreted, maybe he said, but he's not going to admit if he said he has a gun. If he thought that what they call Fannie-pack was a gun. I don't know, it's just so many unknowns.
Yes.
And it's so sad that he bled out. It really seems like what may have killed him.
Between that and the heart attacks.
And the ketamine caused a heart attack.
Yes.
Administered by the EMS.
Because when we arrived at the hospital, they had his chest open. They didn't close it back up when we were in ICU. And my children watched them massage his heart to beat again when he had flatlined once in front of us. So he did respond and come back from that, but it wasn't much longer when it happened again. What a horrible and horrific thing for someone to have, mother to have, and family to have to go through. Well, we hope, and that's why here at Dianne Andrews in Black and White, we just want to help you get justice. As much as we can do to send it out there to the public. I appreciate that.
We appreciate you being here.